Hey, today we're going to talk about those pesky, hard to find coolant leaks. What I'm talking about is sometimes that you can smell the coolant, that really identifiable smell. You know it's coolant, there's no evidence of cooling on the floor, so you know it's just a really small weep. They can be really hard to find, so I'm just going to show you some of the ways where you can track down those leaks and fix them and prevent a future potential problem. So first start by just looking at the major coolant hoses and lines. So have a look on the radiator tank for any signs of a coolant track down the tank, on the engine outlets and stuff like that. And just go around and just check the ends of them. Okay, so there's one we've found there. There's the top heater hose. Right directly under the throttle body. You can see the crusty coolant there on the metal pipe. There's another angle in it, see? It's been weeping around from underneath the heater hose. It's just a very, very slow leak, so you're not going to see any pooling on the floor. And that's obviously just been happening over time, but it's still leaking coolant. So we want to fix that before it develops into a bigger problem, to either leak enough coolant to, so there's not enough in the system, or it can also cause a problem because as the car is cooling down, it can be sucking in air there instead of drawing coolant back from the expansion tank. So it's not a major problem, but we're going to fix it. So to do that, we're going to have to take the intercooler off to get at it from the top. So let's do that. So first of all, we're going to just blow all the joints with compressed air so that we're not going to let any dust and grit into the system as we take the intercooler off. And now we'll remove the intercooler. Alright, so you can get a better look at it now there. See all the dried, crusty coolant that's slowly come out of the hose. Alright, so it's not been a very fast leak, and sometimes these leaks only happen when the system's cold before it builds up enough pressure to seal the hoses. So this can be caused by a couple of different things. These original wire clamps around the hose, they don't have much surface area underneath them. So as the hose shrinks, they slowly sort of cut into the rubber, and the rubber, gets really, really thin underneath them. So that can reduce the clamping pressure against the metal tube. And also sometimes what it can do is actually cut into the rubber so that the coolant leaks through the wall of the rubber and out through the cotton reinforcing at the end. So instead of leaking between the tube and the hose actually leaks down the middle of itself. You can see there, this clamp is screwed almost all the way up. So that's got quite a bit of history of being tightened down and tightened down and tightened down, and slowly it's just not doing the job anymore. So this heater hose is plenty plenty long enough that I can just push it on a bit further and I won't shortcut the bends or anything. Still plenty of flexibility for engine torque. Okay, so it's going to be a simple fix. All I'm going to do is push the hose on a bit to a new part and reclamp it. I'm going to get rid of this type of clamp, put a new clamp on, and she'll be good as new. So first of all, I'm just going to cover up the throttle body so no dirt can go in the engine, and do the same to the turbo. Like that. Next, I've just opened up a new hose clamp, slip it onto the hose here and get it started. Like that. Just let it hang down there for a sec. Now I'm going to clean around the end here. Like that. Give it a bit of a buff with a rag. Like that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is simply undo this clamp, push the hose on further, and then do this clamp up so it's on the metal pipe. Now this system's totally cold, hasn't been driven since yesterday, so we don't have any pressure in the system. I would advise if you're going to do something like this that be the case, otherwise you're probably going to have some coolant leak out and around once you undo the clamp, and I'm going to try and avoid bleeding the system after this. Hopefully we won't lose enough to matter and we won't get any air in the system either. Okay, so just undo the bolt completely out of that original wire clamp and then bend it and take it off. Doesn't matter if you destroy it. So now our hose is just there, sitting there, and I'm just going to show you the grooves in the rubber. You can see it there. There's quite of an indentation once I get it focused. There we go. There's quite an indentation in the rubber hose, where the rubber has shrunk over time and the hose has just been tightened down and down and down and down. So now there's next to no purchase underneath that clamp on the rubber, and that's why we're getting some leaks. So what I'm going to do now is I've got an old tube of Ultra Grey here with a tiny bit left in it. I'm just going to squeeze some on my finger, and I'm just going to wipe it around this metal pipe here. Just a little bit, just a smear. And what that's going to do is when I push the rubber hose down against that, that's just going to basically just seal the end of it. So where the clamp is, it's going to be rubber on metal. But on the end here, the hose is just going to sit on this Ultra Grey. And it's just going to help seal off the end in case we ever get a similar issue again. So now as I push the hose down further, see, it's just going to sit against that ultra grey. We can see a little bit of coolant weeping out now. That's not going to be enough to matter. Now I'm just going to clock the hose around a bit towards the gearbox. That's just going to keep any potential interference away from the intercooler and the rubber hose, because we don't want them rubbing and wearing a hole through the hose. Like that. So now we're ready for our clamp. See, we've got metal pipe all the way up to here. So our new clamp's going to go here on a fresh bit of rubber, and that's going to stop our weepage. So we just slip our clamp down the hose now and put it on our new section. Just down from the swage, like that. Tighten him up, and that's it. Now, because we have enough extra hose there, and I've got plenty of hose clamps, I'm going to put another hose clamp here around the other way. The reason for that is these screw clamps sometimes create a little ripple in the hose where the foot is here, and when the rubber shrinks, like it always does, that can create a leak. So by putting two of them back to back like this, pretend this one was smaller, see, we've got the foot on this side of this one and the foot on this side of this one next to each other. If we double clamp it, we have fully round purchase and also that long along the rubber, and that really prevents leaks in the future. Something I like to do if I've got enough room to play with. So once again, I'm going to open my clamp up. And this time I'm going to put the screw on the other side like this. Put it back together. So now it's going to be double clamped, which is going to give us a bit of extra purchase and sealing capability on this hose. Screw him down tight as well. I can screw this one down tighter. Okay, this is our secondary clamp. Like that. It probably seems a bit of an overkill to put a double clamp on a hose like that, but honestly, sometimes, you know, these kind of things can cause you a bit of trouble, and I've got room to put two clamps. They're only cheap. So it's just like a, you know, two lines of defense plus my little ultra grey trick on the end of the hose there. It's like a triple guard. It's like your, you know, your expensive kind of toothpaste. So now all that's left to do is just kind of wipe this coolant that weeped out of the hose here, so we don't think, uh-oh, it's leaking again. Let me start it up. Dry it all down, and you can sort of rinse this off with some clean water if you want. We might give it a spray with just some water. Just to wash off any residual coolant that's on there, like that. That's just going to dry as soon as we start the motor. So yeah, there we go. There's our leak fixed. Now it's just time to refit the intercooler. So now we can see through there where we saw the residue before. We can see our new nice clean double clamped hose like that, and we're good to go. So because we lost very minimal coolant, there's really no need to bleed the coolant system. If you have time, what I'd suggest is just heat the car up to normal operating temperature and just let it cool down again before you're going to drive it. That'll just make sure there's no small air leaks in the system. Other than that, you're good to go. So that's it, another little problem fixed. Cool, see you guys.